Hello everyone, and welcome to the Y-2 Yoke demonstration for magnetic particle testing. I'm Alex Mastroni. I'm calling in from Glenview, Illinois today. In my role over here at Magnaflux, I collect NDT knowledge from people like you guys, and I put it together in blogs and videos just like this. Today we have two NDT experts on the line, and they are going to discuss their experience and learnings about the Y-2 Yoke. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Christine Shimel.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Christine Shimel. I'm the Equipment Product Manager at Magnaflux, and I'm coming to you live from Glenview, Illinois this morning, where Magnaflux's corporate headquarters are located. Again, we look forward to sharing our knowledge about the Y-2 with you today. And next up, I'm going to turn it over to John McAllister to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. My name is John McAllister. I am the Regional Sales Manager for Magnaflux in the Gulf Coast area. With that, I'll start us off with a quick overview of our agenda for today. First, we have Christine. She's going to walk us through an overview of the mag particle process and how the yoke is utilized within that technique. Second part, we will look at the genesis of the Y-1 yoke and the specific customer feedback that we received for that particular yoke, and the areas we chose to focus on to improve the reliability and the durability of the yoke for the next generation. And that would be the Y-2. And from there, we'll have a short video demonstration of the Y-2. And lastly, then we will open up the floor for any discussion and or questions at that time.
Thanks, John. So to kick us off today, we're going to talk a little bit about yokes just as an introduction and go through the magnetic particle inspection process. And as most will probably know on this call, yokes are great to inspect ferrous parts quickly and efficiently while still meeting the requirements of NDT specifications. They're predominantly used in the inspection of welds during fabrication of structures containing ferrous metals. So a big shout out to all the welders that are joining us on the call today. And another big thing is that yokes are easy to use in confined and restrictive locations where other equipment and technologies like power packs aren't practical. And as we'll walk through today, yokes offer flexibility when used during the visible, fluorescent, and dry particle inspection process. So with that said, I'm going to cover a quick overview of the magnetic particle process. And if you look at our diagram here, on the left, we have the process fluorescent particulate, and on the right, we have non-fluorescent, visible, typically dry particulate. So in either case, you're going to start off with checking the integrity of your yoke. If you're using an AC yoke, like the Y-2, you'll want to start off by performing a 10-pound weight test if this is the beginning of your day or start of your shift. Next, before you get started, you would want to be sure to verify the direction of the field with a pi gauge. And the pi gauge should be used with the copper side facing up. After both of these have been checked and the serial numbers have been recorded to your report, it's time to get started. And again, this just goes back to how important that initial traceability and the startup procedures are. So as you start the magnetic particle inspection process, the first thing you'll want to do is clean the part. Then energize the yoke on the part. And depending on which method you're using, you would apply fluorescent, non-fluorescent, or the visible dry particulate. If you're using the UV method, you would complete the inspection under a UV light. And once this has been completed, you want to record the size and locations of the inspections and indications that you find and make sure it's documented on your report. Likewise, on the dry, non-fluorescent, dry powder on the right, you would use the same process for inspecting, but under visible light. And lastly, you want to make sure that you demagnetize the part. You can demagnetize using either the yoke itself, or you can opt to use a fixed coil as shown in the diagram. After demagnetizing, it's recommended to use a Gauss meter to ensure that the residual magnetization is removed from the part. So with that, we've walked through a quick overview of the magnetic particle inspection process, and we're now going to take you through the journey of how the Yoke family of products have progressed over time. At Magnaflux, we have a philosophy of customer-driven or customer-back innovation. We listen to our customers and we collect that critical voice of customer to understand pain points of those using our equipment and let the feedback really drive innovation. A great example of this is the progression of the Y-1 to the Y-2 yoke. And next up, John is going to walk us through what we've learned about yokes and how this has directly led to the development of the Y-2.
What we're going to look at now is the Y-1. And this is an area that I'm very passionate about. I have, 10 plus years as a field inspector, as an AS&T certified level 2 in the conventional techniques, as well as the advanced techniques of eddy current, iris, iris and remote field. In addition, in and around the time that I was doing the field work, I had a mentor that recommended I take the API, the American Petroleum Institute, their certifications for 653 above ground storage tanks. So I sat with that, but what it has enabled me to do is get a broader view through the methodology and the engineering practices used with API, and then having the AS&T certifications really has broadened my view as to how we assess the integrity of our fixed assets in our industrial infrastructure. And that goes for the downstream world of oil and gas, midstream, upstream, automotive, and aerospace. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the areas that we learned from our customers that were needing some improvement. In this slide, I'm going to be referring to the yoke in the center with the red circles on it. This is our Y1. The first area we started learning about was the electrical cord and how it fastens itself to the yoke, and the problem areas with that. It could become loose or frayed. So just a shout out to everybody how important it is to maintain your cords with these yokes. But that area of focus then led us to another area we needed to improve, and that was the serviceability with the yoke. People in the field would take the yoke apart to try and troubleshoot why there was an issue, but then learn that sealing it back up was a challenge. So serviceability of the yoke was the next area of focus. The third area was with the on-off switch. We could see, and our customers were telling us, we could probably do a little bit better at sealing it up to protect from ingress of dust, moisture, splash, just to be sure that's not a problem for it in the next generation. The fourth area we looked at was the actual bolts that are used on the legs to either loosen them or tighten them up to make it easier to articulate the legs on the yoke either to a wider stance or a more narrow stance. In addition, it was also noted that it was a challenge hooking up the white light feature we had on the rear leg. So we worked on that and fixed that for the Y2. Just a point of reference on these two yokes on the right side. The yoke on the upper right is the yoke that I used as in my tenure in the field. You have the switch on the top, and you've got the on-off switch for the AC current on the back. But having worked with this yoke for many years, and upon seeing the Y1 for the first time, I had an immediate appreciation for the ergonomic grip as well as the lightweightness to it. And I hadn't worked with it in the field before. So that said, it is, to be fair, the yoke in the upper right corner is an AC/DC yoke. It might be just AC, but my point is that having a DC yoke will add weight to it, simply because generating the DC current requires a beefier, larger coil. And just below that one is our version of the AC/DC yoke in the Y-7.
Excellent. John, thank you for walking us through some of the learnings that we had over the years with the Y-1. Next up, I'm going to talk through what's different with the Y-2. So as John talked through, there were a lot of learnings based on direct customer feedback. And so in summary, I'm going to walk through using my yoke and talk through what's different. First and foremost, you'll see that there is a modular power cord that's oil resistant and detachable for easy service and repair. And on the cord, you'll actually see that there's a notch to align pins easily. Another big thing here that you'll notice is that we have a 45-degree angle where the cord is plugged into the yoke. And that was done purposefully to reduce the stress on the cord. You'll also see here that we have an isolated trigger chamber with a sealed switch that can be easily replaced. In addition to that sealed switch, you'll see that we have sealed housing that's IP54 rated. This protects the integrity of the entire yoke and prevents dust and moisture to the coil and power cord. So all three of those items were significant steps forward with this yoke, because the prior yoke essentially had to be disassembled for any service. So these changes are intended to eliminate the need to ever have to open up the yoke, and it makes the repairs for quicker and simpler. So essentially anything that needs to be repaired is isolated and simplified right down to this on-off switch. Next, you'll see a significant upgrade in the ergonomic handle of the Y-2. This makes the product easier to use, especially in these high demanding situations where you're in confined spaces. You have this product in all different angles as you're trying to do your inspection. I know based on John's past life, he would have welcomed a more ergonomic, lightweight yoke from his years of carrying around much heavier versions in the field. Right, John?
That's right, Christine, most definitely.
Awesome. And you'll also see that this yoke has a harness and tether hole, which allows you to hook a lanyard to keep the yoke close to you during a job, especially if you're going up a ladder or you're in a confined space. Just make sure that you never lose the yoke when you're doing the inspection work. And finally, you'll see that the Y-2 yoke has a snap-on LED that is initiated when you start the magnetizing current. And this is used on the rear leg with the LEDs facing inward, so you can better see your work. Again, all of these changes were directly done based on the feedback from the market and improvements we've made in the generation of the yoke that led to the Y-2. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Alex and John. I think next up, they're going to provide a demonstration of using the yoke in action.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Shimel. I am the Equipment Product Manager at Magnaflux. Today, this video will demonstrate the magnetic particle inspection process using our dry visible powders and a handheld yoke. There are many yokes that Magnaflux offers, and the selection is dependent on the type of defect that you're looking for. Today, we'll be showcasing the Y-2 AC yoke. This is AC only and allows for the detection of surface defects. We also offer the Y-7, which is an AC/DC yoke, and finally our Y-8, which is a DC only for those subsurface defects. So with the inspection process, the first step is to clean the part. So we are using SKC-S cleaner, which is a suitable cleaner. There are other options available. So now that the part is clean, we are going to ensure that the yoke legs are aligned on the part that we're trying to inspect. So with the yoke, we have very flexible, bendable legs, which is great because the legs can be widened for inspections that are very wide, or in this case, narrow for smaller inspections. What we're looking at today is actually a weld. So next, we're going to make sure that we place the yoke on the part, and we want the legs of the yoke to be as flat as possible here. Now, if you don't know the direction of the magnetic field, you can use a pi gauge, as witnessed here. And next, we're going to initiate the magnetic current by pressing the button and sprinkling some of the red visible powder onto the weld. You'll see the direction of the magnetic field with that pi gauge. Next, what we'll do is remove the excess powder and look for the indication. And you can see that indication appear very prominently in the center of the weld.
But everybody hang on, there is more. There is a lot more that we had to talk about in the accessories. Over on the left side, you'll see the industry specifications that the Y-2 is compliant with. If you don't know, Magnaflux has a very long history. Dare I say, one of the pioneers in the mag particle world. So we are compliant with many of the industry specifications out there. Over on the right, we have some additional accessories that Christine was referring to in her overview of the mag particle process. Dead center at the 12 o'clock position, we have a Gauss meter. This is what this comes in 3 different flavors. We've got a 10 Gauss meter, a 10 Gauss meter, and a 20 Gauss meter. Difference being that we have a 10 calibrated and a 20 Gauss calibrated. The third is just, it's not calibrated, and I highly recommend it because if you break it, it's not too big of a deal. It's not too big of an expense. Over to the right, we have the EV6500. This is our ultraviolet light handheld lamp, and this also has white light on it. In the center, we have another LED technology. This is the light that you just saw in the video attached to the rear leg of the yoke. This is an LED light. Gosh, I mean, when I think about it, you could even use this as a flashlight, if you will, if you're in a darkened area. Bottom left, we have our visible dry particulate. I won't go through each one of those, but I think those of you that are familiar with our products can identify them. Lastly, we have our 10-pound weight. 10 pounds is what is specified in ASTM 1444 for testing the strength of the yoke. And one thing to point out, if you have never worked with our weight here, on the face of it where the Magnaflux emblem is, that is an acrylic piece. And on the flip side of it, you will have a nameplate that has the serial number for your reports, but also the 2 squares on the right and the left side of it. Those are the optimal size for not just our yokes, but different models that may be on the market. So we realized that there's a lot of different yokes out there. Why not just be friendly and try and make an all-in-one 10-pound test weight? And these are just some of the additional accessories that we have with our mag particle products and our Y-2.
Thanks, John, for running through all the accessories we have. If you want to see any demonstrations of these accessories or demonstrations of the replaceable Y-2 cord or the yoke light, you can go over to our YouTube channel. We also have how-to videos and product launches on there as well. Thank you, John and Christine, for telling us a bit about the Y-2 Yoke today.
Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. We appreciate the time, and we hope that this provided a little bit more insight into the magnetic particle inspection process using our handheld yokes, specifically the Y-2. Please don't hesitate to reach out and send any questions to support@magnaflux.com. John and I will get back to you promptly, and we'll make sure that you have the support for your business. I also want to note that Magnaflux has a dedicated network of distributors and authorized service centers nationwide to support your product needs and keep your operation running smoothly. For more information on this, you can check out our website, where you can easily search for distributors and service centers in your region using a town or a zip code. Great feature to help everyone get connected with the right folks to ensure that you have what you need from the Magnaflux side. So again, we appreciate your time and look forward to working with everyone.